Beloved chosen one, listen carefully. There is a silence in the spirit realm, not because God is absent, but because heaven is holding its breath. You are standing in a sacred stillness, the kind that comes before the sky breaks open and divine instruction is released. This is not peace. This is pause, a holy moment suspended in time as angels hold formation, awaiting a word that will change the trajectory of your life. You can feel it. The air is heavy, not with fear, but with divine anticipation. You were not drawn to this moment by accident. You were summoned. There is a reason you haven't felt settled. There's a reason you've looked around lately and thought, something is about to shift. You're not imagining it. What you are sensing is real. The Spirit of God is hovering over the waters of your soul, waiting to speak the final instruction that will unlock movement. You've outgrown the wilderness. The manna that once satisfied no longer feeds you. Heaven is preparing a new strategy, and the silence is confirmation that something divine is being finalized. You've been faithful in the hidden place. You've cried in silence, obeyed without recognition, carried burdens others couldn't see. And now, the reward is not applause, it's instruction. The kind of instruction that doesn't make sense to the natural mind, but shakes the gates of hell when obeyed. God isn't calling you to understand. He's calling you to trust. What's coming is not a suggestion. It's a command. And your obedience will be the trigger that detonates divine release. Do not let your comfort become your cage. You were not built for stagnancy. You were born for movement, for transition, for transformation. The delay you've experienced wasn't a rejection, it was preparation. You had to be emptied of your own plans so you could recognize the weight of this assignment. This next move is not about convenience. It's about consecration. God is aligning everything around your next. Yes, every silent night you endured has built this stillness. Every betrayal, every unanswered question, every season of invisibility has led you here. You're not crazy. You're called. That tightness in your chest, that restlessness in your spirit, it's heaven's signal. The final instruction is close. You're standing at the edge of activation. This moment, this stillness is sacred. You're standing between what was and what will be, and the atmosphere around you is thick with instruction, not chaos. The very silence you're questioning is the evidence that heaven is near. God often speaks in thunder. Yes, but he also moves in whispers, and when he whispers, only the ones closest to his chest can hear. You are that close. You may feel the pressure to move before the word comes. Don't manufacture movement when heaven is manufacturing a miracle. Don't take a step that hasn't been ordered. If you do, you'll delay what's already been prepared. You are not behind. You're in rhythm with eternity. The silence is part of the rhythm. There is a sound coming, a word, so weighty it will realign your entire life. But you must remain still until it comes. Stand still, not out of fear, but out of faith. The voice of God is too holy to be rushed. The final instruction will come, and when it does, there will be no confusion. There will be no debate. It will break the silence with fire. It will command your spirit to rise and go. Chosen one, do not confuse silence with absence. God is here. He is near. He is hovering over your life, preparing to speak what no one else can say. And when he speaks, everything will shift suddenly. The waiting will make sense. The warfare will reveal its purpose. And your spirit will know this was the stillness before the storm of glory. As we read in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2, "When you walk through fire, you will not be burned." You are not just surviving the fire, you are being prepared to carry it. This next season will not just be about receiving instructions, it will be about becoming the instruction. You will move not just with a message, but as a messenger, you will carry the weight of glory. If you are reading this, it's because your spirit is aligned. This is a divine collision, not an accident. Heaven chose now to speak, and you were awake enough to hear. The silence is holy. Protect it. Don't distract yourself with noise. Don't let the world tell you you're stuck. You're not stuck. You're stationed. God doesn't need to rush. When He moves completely. When He speaks, it settles the matter. This stillness is your final test before the voice comes. Wait well. Honor the pause. Cherish the silence. For when He breaks it, your life will never be the same. Comment 777 below as a prophetic act, declaring, "I am in position. I am ready to move when heaven speaks." You were born for this crossroads. Nothing about your journey has been accidental. Every heartbreak, every detour, every lonely stretch of road has been preparing you for the exact place you now stand. Chosen one, you've walked through seasons of darkness with no map, no signpost, just a whisper in your spirit that said, "Keep going." And that whisper wasn't your imagination. It was the breath of God guiding your steps through terrain that others would have crumbled under. You've been carried by unseen hands, preserved by grace, even when you didn't know how close you were to falling. You've looked around and questioned, "Why me?" But the real question heaven has been asking is, "Why not you?" God saw something in you when others saw nothing. He marked you when you were still being misunderstood, overlooked, and underestimated. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to settle for normal. The resistance you felt is the result of your spiritual DNA conflicting with environments too small for your destiny. This crossroads is not a punishment, it's a platform. God has brought you to a moment where every path behind you starts to make sense. The pain wasn't wasted. The rejection was redirection. The silence trained your ear to hear God without noise. You've been developed in the dark so you could emerge without needing validation. The ones who laughed at you will soon look for your light. But this isn't about proving anyone wrong, it's about proving God right. You've had moments where you thought about quitting, not just slowing down, but truly giving up. You've cried in secret and questioned if any of this would ever amount to anything. But something always pulled you back. Something always reminded you, there's more. That wasn't just resilience. That was revelation. Deep down, you knew this life was never supposed to look like everyone else's. And now you know why. Because this is it. This is the moment your whole journey has been leading to. Every missed opportunity was God's hand saying, "Not yet." Every closed door was mercy, delaying what would have destroyed you if it came too soon. Every no was heaven's way of protecting your yes. And now, as you stand at this divine intersection, your spirit is beginning to stir not with fear, but with recognition. This is the place. This is the hour. The crossroads aren't meant to confuse you. They're designed to awaken you. God gives choice to those who have been trusted with destiny. He doesn't hand the steering wheel to someone unprepared. You have been forged in fire. You have been broken and rebuilt in silence. You're not standing here by luck. You are standing here by leading. But now, the choice is yours. The final instruction will come, but your heart must already be postured to obey. You won't be given every detail. You won't be handed a blueprint. You'll be handed a word, one word, and that word will be enough. You didn't come this far to second-guess the God who brought you. You came this far to recognize that, when He says move, you will not hesitate. Do not fear what's next. Fear staying here too long. Fear ignoring the moment. You are one yes away from becoming the very answer to prayers you've been praying for years. The weight you've felt isn't oppression, it's preparation. Like a bow being drawn before release. You've been stretched, so that when the moment comes, your flight will be straight, fast, and unstoppable. The crossroads will test what you really believe. Do you believe He's faithful? Do you believe He's good even when it's hard? Do you believe His plans are better than your preferences? Because the instruction will not cater to comfort. It will confront it. It will demand movement that scares your flesh but excites your spirit. You will know it's God because it won't make sense to anyone else. Paul reminds us in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6, God raised us up with Christ and seated us with Him in the heavenly realms. That is where your perspective must come from. Now, not from ground level, but from glory. You've been seated with Christ. You've been elevated. So why are you doubting the ground you've been assigned to take? This is your moment to breathe in boldness, to exhale fear. The final instruction is coming, and this time, you won't delay. This time, you'll know that everything behind you was the training ground for everything ahead. Your yes will be the loudest sermon you've ever preached. Your obedience will be the proof of your faith. And the crossroads will no longer feel like confusion, but clarity. You're not choosing between paths. You're choosing between who you were and who you were born to become. The delay was God's mercy. Chosen one. You thought you were forgotten. You assumed the silence was punishment. You mistook the waiting for abandonment. But what you didn't know, what your natural mind couldn't comprehend, is that God was not ignoring you. He was shielding you. What looked like rejection was really redirection. What felt like a closed door was actually divine insulation. Had He moved when you begged, you would have entered a battle unarmed. Had He answered every tear with immediacy, you would have misinterpreted His timing for favoritism rather than formation. You cried out for acceleration, but heaven responded with stillness, not because you were unworthy, but because you were unready. The preparation wasn't punishment, it was preservation. God saw what you couldn't. He knew the weight of what's ahead, and He wouldn't let you carry it with unhealed wounds, immature vision, or untested strength. He had to delay the move to protect the mission, and though you didn't understand it then, you are beginning to now. This delay was not a pause in purpose. It was a proving ground. You had to learn the voice of God without noise. You had to discern the divine whisper in a world full of shouting distractions. You had to become acquainted with lack so that you would never idolize abundance. The wilderness was your sanctuary. The silence was your teacher. The waiting was your tutor in trust. If He had released you too soon, you would have sabotaged the promise. Your character wouldn't have survived the exposure. Your foundation would have cracked under the weight of what's coming. But now, You've been anchored, rooted, fortified. You're not just gifted, you're grounded. The people who moved ahead of you weren't faster, they were released for something different. Don't envy those who seemed to soar while you were still crawling. Many of them are now falling because they went before they were sent. But you, God, has been molding you in the secret place. Your unveiling will not require striving. It will be a natural result of spiritual obedience. You've seen others promoted while you were passed over. You've watched opportunities dissolve while your hands were lifted in prayer. But chosen one, hear this. What God is about to do in your life will redeem every lost second. Divine speed is not about pace, it's about alignment. When the moment comes, it won't take long. It will be sudden, unmistakable, and undeniable. Because God delayed to ensure you would not only reach it, but keep it. This season has taught you patience. Yes, but more than that, it has taught you identity. You no longer chase validation. You no longer beg for rooms to include you. You've learned that silence doesn't mean absence. You've learned that hidden doesn't mean forgotten. You've learned that late in your eyes is still on time in God's calendar. You may not have seen the full picture yet, but you've caught glimpses. You've had dreams that wouldn't leave you, prophetic words that echoed louder in your trials than in your triumphs. God was preparing you to be a finisher, not just a starter. The delay wasn't denial. It was destiny waiting for maturity. It was declared in Luke chapter 10, verse 19, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions. That authority was not given casually. It had to be tested. It had to be refined. You don't receive that kind of weight without going through the furnace of waiting. But now, that authority is yours. You didn't skip steps. You didn't cut corners. And that's why, when the instruction comes, you will know how to move. The final instruction has not been delayed. You've simply been in divine holding, like a plane circling the runway, waiting for clearance, because it's not ready to land. But because the ground must be prepared to receive it, this delay was mercy. And soon, you will see it with your own eyes. What's coming will be so holy, so heavy, so undeniably divine, that you'll fall to your knees in awe and say, thank you for not giving it to me sooner. You will worship not just for what he gave, but for when he gave it. Type, speak. Lord, if your heart is ready to obey before the command is even given, there is a final instruction coming. Chosen one. The heavens are not silent, they are synchronized. Every delay you've endured, every detour that left you confused, has been orchestrated to bring you to this moment. Not a second has been wasted. The stillness wasn't random, it was divine rehearsal. God has been clearing the stage of your life for one purpose, to deliver a word so clear, so precise, that every lingering doubt will dissolve. You don't need another sign. You don't need a louder prophecy. What you need is the final instruction. This is not just another motivational nudge. This is a divine directive, a moment in which heaven invades your timeline and releases the word that turns ordinary days into destiny-filled movement. You'll know it when it comes. Your soul will recognize it. Your spirit will surge. It won't sound like logic. It won't align with comfort. But it will harmonize perfectly with your calling. You've been trained to discern it in the dark. And when it speaks, you will not hesitate. God doesn't waste instructions on the unprepared. That's why he's been breaking, molding, refining you in secret. That's why people left That's why doors shut. That's why isolation became your companion. He was stripping away the noise so you could hear the whisper. He was emptying your hands so you could carry the word. This next instruction is not coming to your flesh, it's coming to your spirit. You've been walking in circles, wondering why momentum hasn't matched your passion. The answer? Heaven was waiting on the atmosphere to align, waiting on your heart to mature, waiting on your spirit to be fully postured in surrender. Because this final instruction won't just require obedience, it will demand transformation. You won't just act different, you'll become different. There is a reason you've been restless, a reason you've been unable to fully settle. It's because your spirit knows what your mind has yet to grasp. Something is coming, and it's holy. Your discomfort is prophetic. It's the prelude to divine redirection. God is not trying to frustrate you. He's trying to focus you. You've been trying to build something permanent in a temporary place, and heaven is about to tell you to move. The voice of God is weighty. It does not repeat itself to fill silence. It speaks once, and creation aligns. That same voice that said, "Let there be light," is about to speak to you. And when it does, you must move, not in fear, not in flesh, but in faith. The word will not flatter, it will stretch you. It will pull you into waters you've never navigated, and yet you will walk with confidence, not because you understand the outcome, but because you trust the one who gave the command. This instruction will not sound like your past. It won't resemble anything familiar, because God is not recycling old seasons. He's birthing something entirely new. And like Abraham, you will be asked to go without knowing exactly where. Like Noah, you will be asked to build what has never been seen. Like Mary, you will be asked to carry what the world cannot comprehend. This is sacred responsibility. Not everyone can handle it, but you were chosen for it. As we read in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, the Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." And in point, God didn't give Abraham a map, he gave him a word. And that word was enough. It uprooted generations. It launched legacy. It rewrote history. And now, chosen one, God is about to do the same with you. One instruction, one moment, one word that shifts everything. You won't need confirmation when the word comes. You won't seek consensus. You'll know, because this word will pierce through confusion. It will silence every other voice. It will stand taller than fear, louder than doubt, and heavier than hesitation. And when it comes, the only question left will be, are you willing to move? Distractions are being severed. Chosen one. Heaven is doing spiritual surgery and the blade is cutting deep. You've felt it, haven't you? The sudden shifts in your connections, the restlessness in your daily routines, the exposure of old patterns that used to feel normal. It's not random. It's not emotional burnout. It's divine intervention. God is severing what cannot follow you. The distractions are being removed, not because you asked, but because your next instruction demands undivided focus. This is not discipline, it's destiny. God is jealous over the word that's about to be released to you. He won't allow it to be drowned out by trivial things. That's why certain friendships have grown quiet. That's why some doors you thought were open forever suddenly slammed shut. That's why the things that used to entertain you now feel empty. You're not broken. You're being recalibrated. Distractions are not always obvious. Sometimes they come dressed in comfort, in conversations that waste your anointing, in places where your presence is tolerated, but your calling is smothered. God is tearing you away from anything that would compete with His voice. He is pruning your schedule, your mind, your digital space, your heart, not to punish, but to purify. Because when the instruction comes, you must hear clearly. No static, no distortion, just word. There is a sacred stillness God is drawing you into, and everything unholy must fall off. You may try to hold on. You may fight to keep what's familiar, but if you do, it will cost you more than you know. What God has for you cannot be merged with what He's calling you out of. Separation is not cruelty, it's clarity. When God moves, He makes space for it. You've probably noticed that things you used to enjoy have started to irritate you. That's not moodiness. That's spiritual refinement. Your taste is changing. Your appetite is maturing. You can't binge on spiritual junk food when God's preparing to serve revelation. The word that's coming requires sobriety. You must be clear-minded and alert. Even your own thoughts are being tested right now. Thoughts of quitting, thoughts of shrinking, thoughts of going back to old rhythms that no longer fit. Don't take the bait. That's not ute. It's the residue of old seasons trying to pull you back. You are not returning to what was. You are being launched into what will be. This is why your sleep has been restless. Why your spirit feels on edge. You're not crazy. You're in transition. And in transition, heaven quiets everything unnecessary. You've been praying for answers, but God is responding with deletion. That's because clarity often comes not from adding but from subtracting. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says, "Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." God is not only removing sin, He's removing distractions. There are things that are not sinful, but they're slowing you down. People that are not evil, but they are not assigned. Roles that are not wrong, but no longer right. This next move requires trimmed weight, clean vision, holy focus. You've been crying over what's leaving, but if only you could see what's coming. If only you knew what heaven is organizing on the other side of this silence. God doesn't remove without the intention to refill. The relationships you lost are making room for divine partnerships. The time you feel you've wasted is being redeemed for precision. He's not just severing, He's streamlining. And when that instruction comes, you will hear it without filters. No confusion, no doubt, because all the extra noise will have been removed. You'll step forward knowing exactly who you are, what you carry, and why you were sent, and you'll realize it was worth the silence. It was worth the separation. It was worth the shift. If this word speaks to your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Someone you know is drowning in distraction and doesn't even realize it's spiritual. Share this message with them not as content, but as confirmation. Speak life into someone else's wilderness by clicking share. You're not just spreading encouragement, you're sowing clarity. If you've been blessed by this word and want to partner with its reach, consider sowing into it. Your support helps carry these messages further to those who need it most. Not everyone is ready for deep words like this, but the chosen ones will recognize it instantly. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Don't rely on the scroll to bring you back to this flow of revelation. Stay connected. Make the decision to align with what's feeding your spirit in this season. because what's coming next will require your full attention and your full alignment. This is not for the comfortable, it's for the called, chosen one. The hour is not asking for spectators. It's summoning warriors. You didn't endure all those silent seasons, sleepless nights, and unseen battles just to stand still. Now, everything in the Spirit is aligning around one command that's coming, and it will not accommodate your comfort. It's not casual. It's costly. The next instruction will confront everything in you that wants to stay safe, blend in, or hesitate. And yet, your spirit is already stirring, because something deep within you knows you were born for this. This next move cannot be delayed. The comfort you've clung to has an expiration date. The clock in heaven is moving, and your assignment is about to be activated. There will be no warning shot, no extra sign. When God speaks, the only appropriate response is movement, and that's why He's been distilling your desires, shaking you free from every dependence that could distract your decision. What used to satisfy you now feels empty. What used to calm you now feels heavy. That is heaven calling you higher. The instruction that is coming will not sound familiar. It will not match your 5-year plan, but it will resonate in your bones like truth. It will pull at you in a way nothing else has. You won't be able to explain it to others, and you won't need to, because the word won't be sent to your understanding. It will be sent to your obedience, and your obedience is what will unlock the next phase of your destiny. This is where the line is drawn. There are many who will hear the word, but few who will act. You, chosen one, have been prepared in silence, so that when the word comes, you won't flinch. God is not preparing you for comfort. He's preparing you for confrontation with systems, with fear, with the limits others placed on you, and you won't need their validation. The voice of God will be enough. That's why He's been refining your ears. You've gone through seasons where you couldn't hear Him clearly, not because He left, but because He was tuning your frequency. The noise of your past life was too loud. And now, in this hush before the instruction, you are finally able to hear not just what He says, but what He means. That's maturity. That's readiness. That's divine alignment. This word will not confirm your past. It will command your future. It will not consult your comfort, it will test your commitment. And it will come suddenly. One moment you'll be doing the usual, and the next, heaven will interrupt everything. No warning, just word. And those who are ready in spirit will recognize it immediately. They will move not in panic, but in purpose, as it was said in Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, "This is the way, walk in it." End quote. That's what's coming. A voice, a direction, a divine shift that demands response. And your only job in that moment will be to obey without delay. You've asked God for clarity, and He's about to give it to you, but it will come at a cost. The cost of comfort, the cost of approval, the cost of the version of you that's rooted in fear. But when you step into obedience, everything changes. Doors swing open, battles fall silent, provision rushes in, because obedience is the currency of heaven. Chosen one, your next step isn't about striving harder, it's about yielding deeper. The next level doesn't require more hustle, it requires more surrender. You must become the kind of vessel that can hold the weight of a final instruction. Not someone who merely hears, but someone who carries and releases and moves. The enemy is not afraid of your knowledge. He's terrified of your obedience. That's why every distraction lately has been aimed at delaying your yes. That's why confusion has tried to cloud your clarity. But your breakthrough isn't coming from more information. It's coming from radical obedience. That's what breaks chains. That's what shifts atmospheres. That's what activates anointing. You are not being prepared for a suggestion. You are being prepared for a summons. God is about to speak, and your spirit must be ready to say yes before the words even leave his mouth. This is what separates the comfortable from the called. And make no mistake, you are called. You won't need all the answers. You won't get them. What you'll get is a word. And if you trust that word, it will carry you through every wilderness, over every storm, and straight into the promised place he's had reserved for you all along. Comment 444 below if your heart is already postured to obey. That number is not random, it signifies open doors, divine movement, and heavenly instruction. It is the sound of readiness in the spirit. You've been marked by fire. Chosen one. What you've walked through would have burned most people to ashes, but not you. The heat didn't destroy you, it defined you. Every season of pressure, every trial that seemed too much to bear, was not meant to break you. It was meant to brand you. You are not who you used to be. You don't respond the same. You don't think the same, because fire changes everything. It refines, purifies, and proves. You are proof. You've been through emotional flames, spiritual wildernesses, moments where the ground beneath you felt unstable, yet here you are, not weaker, not diminished, stronger, sharper, more aware, more consecrated. You don't just carry memories, you carry markings, evidence of divine survival. Your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. They tell the story of a God who allowed you to enter the fire, but never let it consume you. There's something different about you now. You're not easily swayed. You don't chase popularity. You don't bow to pressure. Because you've faced the fire and discovered that it cannot destroy what God has chosen, that inner strength you now walk with, that's what the fire built. And it was never meant to feel comfortable. It was meant to build capacity. Fire reveals what is true. It strips away the surface. It burns off what's fake. That's why you lost some people in the fire. That's why opportunities vanished. That's why certain environments became unbearable. The fire wasn't just about what God wanted to form in you. It was about what he needed to remove from around you. Some connections could not handle your calling. Some atmospheres could not support your elevation. And so, the fire took them, not to punish you, but to protect what's coming. You've cried in that fire. You've wrestled with God in that fire. But something inside you knew this isn't the end. It's the making. There was a holy fire resting on your life even before you recognized it. You didn't invite it, but heaven ignited it, because you were chosen not for ease, but for evidence. You were meant to show the world what resilience looks like under anointing. Now, when you enter a room, things shift. Not because you're loud, but because you're marked. Not because you seek attention, but because the atmosphere recognizes authority. You carry a weight now, a spiritual gravity. You don't even have to announce it. Darkness senses it. The enemy tries to distract you, delay you, diminish you, because he knows what you carry was forged in a place he could never survive. As we read in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7, these trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. You are gold, chosen one, not surface shine, but deep value. You've been tried, refined, approved, and now you're stepping into a level of clarity and strength that can't be faked. It's been earned in obedience, in silence, in warfare. The fire not only shaped your endurance, it shaped your discernment. You no longer get excited about shallow things. You no longer entertain what drains your spirit. You've tasted depth. And now, surface talk, surface relationships, surface religion, it doesn't satisfy. You're after more, because you've seen what the fire makes possible. You've felt the presence of God hold you when nothing else could. Others wonder how you carry so much with such peace. It's not because it's easy. It's because you've been in the fire long enough to trust the flames. You've learned how to walk without panic, how to wait without complaint, how to believe without seeing. Because the fire taught you how to worship while bleeding, how to stand when broken, how to sing when silent. And now, you walk with a spiritual boldness, a quiet fire, not arrogance but authority, because you know where you've been, you know what it cost, and you know who was with you the entire time. The fire didn't take you, it branded you. You're not just coming out of it, you're coming out with it. You are the evidence of survival. Yes, but more than that. You are the torchbearer now. You carry fire. The instruction that's coming isn't being handed to someone untested. It's being delivered to someone who's already walked through flames. God trusts you now with weightier things. Not because you're perfect, but because you're proven. You didn't fold in the fire. You learned how to walk through it with integrity, with worship, with surrender. And that's why he can trust you with more. You didn't quit when the prayers went unanswered. You didn't run when the pressure mounted. You didn't compromise when silence became deafening. You stayed. You endured. You listened. And the fire responded by preparing you for what others prayed for but weren't willing to withstand. You are the remnant, the refined, the ones who didn't just shout about obedience, but lived it, quietly, daily, in hidden places. And now, the fire is no longer your enemy. It's your identity. Don't be surprised when people can't understand you now. You've changed. The fire did that. It burned away the need to explain yourself. It consumed your dependence on people's opinions. What you're walking into can't be explained with logic, it must be witnessed in power. And it will be. Because the instruction that's coming, it's going to set things ablaze. You're not just moving forward, you're igniting others, lighting paths, breaking chains. And it all started when you decided not to run from the fire, but to walk through it. The shaking was the separation. Chosen one. You didn't lose your footing by accident. You didn't watch things fall apart just because life got difficult. No. What you experienced was divine shaking. God, in His mercy, reached down and disrupted everything that looked stable but couldn't carry you forward. It wasn't destruction, it was distinction. The shaking was heaven's tool to separate you from what had become too familiar, too limiting, too small for your next assignment. Everything that cracked was meant to. Everything that shook loose was never anchored in the eternal. What you mistook as falling apart was actually falling into place. God never promised to preserve your comfort. He promised to preserve your calling. And when He sees that your surroundings are choking your growth, He shakes them. When He sees that your relationships are draining your fire, He rattles them, not to scare you, but to spare you. It was never about chaos. It was about clarity. Sometimes, the only way to see what's truly yours is to watch what leaves when everything gets unstable. The shaking forced truth into the open. Motives were revealed. Loyalties were tested. What couldn't withstand the quake was never meant to last. And now, you're seeing clearly, for the first time in a long while, that shaking you survived. It was separation from false attachments, from roles you outgrew, from environments that no longer aligned with the fire on your life. You weren't being punished. You were being promoted. It just didn't look like promotion at first. It looked like isolation. It looked like silence. It looked like everything you built being torn apart, but only so God could rebuild on a better foundation. You were never called to build on sand. You were called to stand on the rock. And the shaking exposed what parts of your life were not rooted in that rock. It showed you where your identity was entangled in things God never assigned to you. Titles, platforms, people, ideas all had to be sifted so that only the unshakable could remain. As Hebrews chapter 12, verse 27 reminds us, the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things so that what cannot be shaken may remain. You are what remains. You are the unshakable, the tested, the refined, the ones who did not collapse under pressure but became clearer, sharper, holier through it. The separation wasn't to reduce you. It was to release you. God had to shake the room to show you who really belonged in it. It's no longer about popularity or perception. It's about purpose. And purpose doesn't panic when the ground trembles. Purpose knows the shaking is proof that God is repositioning. You may not have seen it before, but now, you know, every trembling moment, every uncertain step, every fractured plan was not a curse. It was course correction. You were headed toward blending in, and God wanted you set apart. There is a holiness that comes from separation, a fire that only burns once. Certain things are removed. God couldn't release the instruction until the atmosphere was sanctified. That's why people began walking away. That's why opportunities dried up. That's why you stopped being able to tolerate what you once tolerated. You didn't become bitter. You became bound to a higher standard. And now that you've been separated, there's a purity to your vision. You no longer entertain what distracts. You no longer reach for what compromises your calling. The shaking stripped you of excess and left only the essential. You may have fewer people around you now, but the ones who remain are covenant, not convenience. What God is about to say to you cannot be shared with just anyone. That's why He cleansed your circle. The final instruction will require silence, reverence, and obedience, and He couldn't risk it being diluted by the voices of the uncommitted. You've been brought to this place of solitude, not to suffer but to see. And what you're about to see will change everything. You're not bitter about what left. You're not grieving what broke. Because now, you understand. The shaking didn't take from you. It revealed you. It showed you what can't be moved. It confirmed what God put inside you. It proved that even when everything around you fell, you remained. And that endurance has become your mantle. You don't need to go back. You don't need to fix what God tore down. The shaking was separation, and the separation was sacred. You are being entrusted now with something weighty, a divine assignment, a word that has power to open doors, split seas, shake nations, and only the separated ones can carry it. So, when the final instruction comes, and it will, you'll hear it from a place of clarity, no longer distracted, no longer divided, but focused, fortified, and faithful. You are standing on holy ground, chosen one. Do you realize what this moment is? You're not just moving through another day. You're standing in a moment history has waited for, in a space carved out by heaven, where God Himself is drawing near with purpose. This ground is not ordinary. Your posture must shift. Your spirit must rise. Everything around you has been cleared for this exact alignment, and the atmosphere is pregnant with divine instruction. There is a weight in the air, not of burden, but of glory. You can feel it, the trembling in your soul, the sudden tears without explanation, the ache that's not sorrow, but expectation. That's the presence of God. He's closer than He's ever been. And He's not here to entertain you. He's here to commission you. Moses stood before a burning bush, trembling and unsure. But the first thing heaven said was not an instruction, it was a recognition. Take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. God wasn't just alerting Moses to the miraculous sight. He was alerting him to a sacred shift. You're having the same encounter now. And just like Moses, your next step will not be into comfort, but into confrontation, into calling, into covenant. You've wondered why things feel so intense lately. Why your emotions feel like a battlefield. Why your thoughts are louder than usual. It's because you're not walking through normal space. You're transitioning through sacred territory. The enemy knows this too, which is why the distractions have multiplied. He knows that once you recognize the ground you're standing on, you'll stop apologizing for your anointing and start walking in your authority. Everything changes when you realize the ground is holy. You speak differently. You move intentionally. You don't waste energy on arguments, approval, or appearances, because you know heaven is watching. And when heaven watches, destiny moves. God is not just near, He's watching your response, not your reaction, but your response. Will you treat this like a casual moment? Or will you bow in reverence? Will you recognize that every time God speaks, it's an invitation to transformation? This ground is proof that you've been chosen to hear what others aren't even ready to receive. Do not rush through this moment. This is not a stop on the way. This is the altar, the place where burdens fall and clarity rises, where confusion dies and commission begins. You've entered the chamber of instruction, and silence here is not empty, it's sacred. Exodus chapter 3, verse 5 declares, "Do not come any closer." God said, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Not what needs to come off in your life before you can hear clearly. What familiarity must be shed before the instruction can be received. You can't carry old habits onto holy ground. You can't mix past shame with future glory. There is a stripping that must happen before the speaking. This is not about earning God's voice. It's about recognizing the atmosphere of His presence. When you know you're on holy ground, your ears open wider, your heart softens, your resistance breaks, because you realize He didn't bring you here to tease you. He brought you here to trust you, to place something in your spirit that requires spiritual sobriety to carry. You're not just in between seasons, you're between realms. Something eternal is breaking into the now, and you were chosen to hear it. You were chosen to receive it. This moment is weightier than emotion. This is divine strategy wrapped in stillness. You don't need to strive. You don't need to shout. You just need to listen. Because when God speaks from holy ground, the word doesn't echoit implants. It roots deep in the soul. It rewrites paradigms. It shifts legacies. One word here can reroute everything. Do not miss what's being said because you are hoping for a louder sign. The whisper of God on holy ground carries more weight than thunder in empty places. And you've been brought here to hear that whisper. Chosen, trusted, appointed. Comment, I receive this. Let your spirit affirm what your soul already knows. Heaven is speaking, and you are standing on holy ground. This is more than content, it's confirmation. Chosen one. What you're feeling right now isn't just conviction, it's divine recognition. This message has been a mirror for your spirit, reflecting back everything you couldn't articulate. You haven't been crazy. You haven't been overly sensitive. You've simply been awakened ahead of schedule. While others were settling, you were being summoned. And now, heaven is pressing into your soul, not to entertain you, but to commission you. You've been drawn to words like these because your spirit refuses to be lulled to sleep. You can't go back to passive Christianity, surface-level religion, or generic motivation. It doesn't feed you anymore, because your assignment requires meat, not milk. It requires prophetic instruction, not recycled inspiration. And the voice of God is drawing you into alignment deeper, bolder, quieter, and more focused than ever before. What you're sensing is real. The tug in your heart, the sudden tears, the inward tension that's been building with every word, it's all confirmation. You've outgrown where you've been. You're not crazy for feeling like you don't belong anymore. God is pulling you into the next dimension, and His final instruction will arrive not through noise, but through clarity, not through mass appeal, but personal revelation. You're no longer looking for a voice to tell you what to do. You're looking for a sound that resonates with what God already whispered in the dark. This is that sound, that alignment, that deep call to deep. And you knew it the moment your spirit locked in. This is not hype. This is holy. And when something is holy, you don't scroll past it. You sit with it. You don't treat it like content. You treat it like command. God has used this moment, this exact space in time, to confirm to you what your soul's been wrestling with in silence. And now, He's inviting you to act. But don't rush this. Stay here a little longer. Go back and re-listen. Let it soak in. Because this message isn't just for today, it's a key, a prophetic doorway. And every time you return to it, you'll hear something deeper. Not because the message changes, but because you do. As it was said in John chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." Emily, you are one of the ones who hears. You've been drawn to this not by the algorithm, but by the anointing. That's why, even as others scroll past, something inside you lingers, because your spirit knows, this is my word. And it is. God doesn't shout at everyone. He whispers to the ones close enough to catch it. You've drawn near. You've postured yourself to hear, and now the confirmation is falling like rain. You're not confused anymore. You're aware. And awareness is where movement begins. You've been hungry for something real, something weighty, something that doesn't just excite, but transforms. And now you've found it. Don't treat this casually. Lean in. Stay close. Because what's coming next will build upon what you've received here. This is just the beginning. Heaven doesn't tease. Heaven prepares. And if this word has stirred something in you, if it's confirmed things you couldn't even put into words, then stay connected. Don't let this be the last time your spirit eats at this table. Subscribe so you never miss what heaven is releasing through this stream. Because this isn't just a channel, it's an altar. A flow of fresh oil for the chosen. Share this with someone whose fire is flickering. Someone who's been questioning their journey. Don't keep this to yourself. You are a messenger now. You carry what you've received. And what you share may be the very spark someone else needs to reignite their calling. And if you feel led, consider partnering with this ministry. Your seed helps carry these messages further, breaking past barriers and bringing divine alignment into dark places. We don't give to get. We give because we recognize when we're standing on holy ground. If that's you, move as the Spirit leads. You've been called, and this message was heaven's way of reminding you, you're not missing it. You're right on schedule. Every delay, every tear, every prayer, it was preparation. And now, you've found the voice that matches the sound inside you. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Welcome home. Chosen one. Welcome to clarity. When God gives the green light, hesitation becomes disobedience. Chosen one. You must understand what is at stake. There comes a moment in every divine assignment when the window opens not wide, not forever, but precisely. That moment is not up for debate. It's not a negotiation. When God says move, delay is not wisdom, it is rebellion. When the instruction comes, it is not time to analyze, it is time to act. You've had time to think. You've had time to question. God has been patient in your processing. But now, the hesitation that once felt cautious will turn costly. Because in divine timing, movement is not just about motion, it's about trust. The green light of heaven isn't a suggestion, it is a signal. And only those watching closely, with hearts postured to go, will catch it before it closes. This is the kind of movement that doesn't make sense to those who weren't in the silence with you. You can't expect everyone to understand what God whispered to you in the wilderness. Their approval is not your assignment. Their confusion is not your concern. You've heard the voice. You've felt the shift. You've seen the signs. And now, your obedience is all that remains. God is not asking you to be fearless. He's asking you to be faithful. Faith doesn't erase fear. It just moves anyway. And this moment, this green light, this divine release, it is your moment to prove your faith is more than words, that your waiting wasn't wasted, that your wilderness didn't weaken you, trained you to recognize the signal when it came. Do not hesitate when it's time to step. Don't let your mind talk you out of what your spirit has already confirmed. The longer you pause, the more ground you give to fear, and fear has no right to stand where obedience has been invited. You weren't preserved this long to perish in indecision. You were preserved so that when heaven opened the gate, you would run through it with full trust. As we read in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 4, Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Waiting for the perfect condition is the fastest path to spiritual paralysis. If you delay every move until all risk is gone, you will miss the moments that only obedience can activate. Faith isn't waiting for the wind to calm its sailing anyway, because you trust the voice that said, "Go." The green light from heaven does not come with a manual. It comes with momentum. And once released, it demands action. You've asked for clarity. God will give it. But that clarity won't show you the whole picture. It will show you the next step. And the rest will unfold only as you move. God often doesn't provide instructions for the whole journey. He provides grace for the next step. And when you take it, doors open, pathways appear, resources are released. Not before you move, but because you moved. You're not being asked to move blindly. You're being asked to move with boldness, trusting the one who gave the command. This green light won't always feel like confirmation. Sometimes it feels like tension, like a stretching that pulls your soul out of its usual patterns. It may feel risky, but understand this. Obedience often feels risky to the flesh, but it is the safest place in the spirit. The center of God's instruction is the most protected ground on earth. This is why you've been sensing urgency. Why the clock in your soul feels like it's speeding up. Because heaven is not waiting forever. The timing of God is holy. And He doesn't move based on your comfort. He moves based on purpose. You don't have the luxury of indefinite delay. There are things tied to your obedience, people, places, assignments that cannot be released until you move. You were never meant to live in neutral. That pause you've been feeling was temporary. The green light isn't just permission, it's a summons, a royal invitation to act with courage, to walk in faith, to move, even if your knees shake. Because heaven doesn't need your confidence. It needs your surrender. You've been prepared for this. The training wasn't for nothing. The trials weren't in vain. Everything has been leading to this instruction. This green light, this call to step out. And when it comes, there won't be time to gather opinions. The only voice that matters is the one who said, "Go." And when you move, don't look back. Don't try to take inventory of who's clapping and who's confused. Your obedience is between you and God. You're not trying to impress. You're trying to obey. And obedience are all. Simple. Radical obedience is what unlocks the heavens. This is the time. This is the season. The light is green. And now, so must be your spirit. This is where you prove it. Chosen one. The next instruction won't be about inspiration. It'll be about response. This is no longer about what you feel. It's about what you do, because the path forward will not be walked by the emotionally stirred, but by the spiritually surrendered. You've heard the word. You've sensed the moment. And now, heaven watches not for tears, but for movement. Obedience is the dividing line between those who hear and those who follow. The difference is not in anointing, it's in action. You've carried promises in your spirit. You've cried over visions you've yet to see manifest. But promises alone do not unlock destiny. Obedience does. And the moment that word is released, the moment God says, "Move," what you do next becomes the hinge on which everything swings. God is not asking for perfection. He's asking for proof. Proof that your spirit means what your mouth said. Proof that your yes wasn't just for the quiet place, but for the battlefield. Proof that your faith still stands even when the instruction feels impossible. This is the moment where the wheat separates from the chaff. When heaven speaks, the ones who move become the ones who manifest. There's a world of difference between someone who believes and someone who obeys. And now, your next move will reveal which one you are. You've been trained for this. Every delay that felt like denial, every lesson you had to learn the hard way, every time God pulled you back when you wanted to push forward, it was all preparation for now. And though it didn't feel like it then, heaven was building stamina. God was crafting precision. He was conditioning your spirit to respond, not react. Obedience is your weapon now, not your feelings, not your resume, not your logic, just your yes. Because what's coming will not wait for another round of confirmation. Heaven's word will be clear, and your movement must match its clarity, not half-hearted, not hesitant, but immediate, total, and complete. As it was spoken in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 14, "The word is very near you, it is in your mouth and in your heart, so you may obey it." God isn't hiding the instruction. He's placing it close enough that when the moment comes, it won't be confusing, it'll be undeniable. But only the ready will respond. Only those who have already surrendered will step forward without resistance. This is not a moment to be spiritually passive. The door you've been praying for won't open because of more declarations. It will open because of your decision. And that decision isn't just about stepping forward, it's about burning the bridges that lead back. The instruction will cost you something, and that cost will reveal what you value more: the comfort you've built, or the calling that's been waiting. You've sensed the instruction forming. It's been stirring in your belly. God has already started speaking in pieces, but He's about to complete the sentence. And when He does, what you do next will tell heaven everything it needs to know. The weight of this moment is not to crush you, it's to crown you. Obedience is not bondage, it's elevation. You're not being forced, you're being chosen. And with that choice comes accountability. You've been marked, set apart. Your life doesn't operate like everyone else's. Delayed obedience for others might be tolerated, but not for the chosen. For you, delay is disobedience, because heaven has invested too much into your development to watch you hesitate now. The final instruction will likely not look how you imagined. It may not come wrapped in comfort, but your spirit will know it's God. And that knowing is the signal. That moment of recognition is when the countdown begins. And what you do in that moment will determine what unfolds next. Don't wait until it feels easy. Don't wait until you have every resource. God's instructions rarely come when you feel fully ready. They come when you're fully aligned. And readiness is not about having, it's about hearing. You've heard. Now you must move. You are one decision away from divine acceleration. But acceleration only comes where there is action. You can't pray your way into what only obedience unlocks. You've fasted. You've cried. You've waited. And now you must act. This is not about pressure. It's about promise. God isn't threatening. He's inviting. And what He's inviting you into is bigger than your fear, greater than your doubt, richer than your understanding. But it will only be revealed after the yes, not before. Comment 999 below as a prophetic act that declares, "I will obey." Let every principality know your hesitation is over. Let heaven see your heart is aligned. Let your obedience speak louder than your prayers ever have. The enemy fears your obedience. Chosen one. Make no mistake, hell is not intimidated by your dreams. It is not shaken by your declarations or even your knowledge of Scripture. What terrifies darkness is not what you know, it's what you do. Obedience is the single most dangerous weapon in the hands of the chosen, because when you obey, you break patterns, you destroy cycles, you unlock heaven's movement on earth. Satan doesn't fear potential, he fears performance. He fears the moment your thoughts turn into steps, when your faith becomes motion, when the whisper in your spirit becomes a war cry in your decisions. That's when chains break. That's when strongholds collapse. That's when generational curses are crushed under the weight of one faithful act. You see, your obedience doesn't just affect you. Triggers shift in realms you can't even see. Angels are mobilized. Strategies are released. Territory is reclaimed. That's why the enemy fights your movement more than your knowledge. That's why confusion, delay, and fear always rush in right before your moment of clarity, because he knows that one act of obedience can undo years of demonic assignment. It was never about stopping you from dreaming. It was about stopping you from doing, from stepping, from saying yes when the instruction finally arrives. Because the enemy understands what's really on the line. You're not just moving forward, you're taking ground. You're walking with fire. You're shifting atmospheres with every step. This is why the warfare has intensified, why the pressure has escalated, because the enemy senses what's coming. He feels the weight of the word forming in your spirit, and he knows if you ever truly say yes fully, completely, without compromise, there's nothing he can do to stop what heaven unleashes through you. As we read in James chapter 4, verse 7, submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Submission, that's the secret weapon. Obedience is the proof of submission. It is the loudest resistance to darkness. When you submit your plans, your fears, your logic, and your timing to God, you become a fortress the enemy can't penetrate, because he has no access to a surrendered vessel. You've probably noticed it yourself every time you get close to a breakthrough. Distraction shows up. Every time clarity is on the horizon, chaos tries to cloud your focus. That's not coincidence. That's the enemy launching his last defense. Because he knows, once you obey, his influence ends. The devil cannot stop the instruction, but he can try to stop your response. That's where the battle is. In the delay, in the overthinking, in the waiting for more signs when God has already spoken. But you were never meant to live in hesitation. You were marked to move in holy urgency, to carry out God's will before the enemy can launch his counterattack. This is why the warfare didn't crush you, couldn't. You were preserved not just to survive, but to obey. Your very existence is a threat to darkness, not because of who you are, but because of whose word you carry. And when that word becomes action, it sets fires the enemy can't put out. You've already proven that you won't be silenced. You've made it through too much to go quiet now. But now comes the test of obedience. Not just surviving storms, but obeying through them. Not just enduring trials, but moving forward in the middle of them. Obedience is what makes demons flee and destiny ignite. Your yes is a sword. Your agreement with heaven is an earthquake in the spirit. The enemy has seen this pattern before. Obedient ones don't just change their lives, they change bloodlines. They shift regions, they trigger revival. And you're next in line. This is why you're dangerous now. Because you're not just listening, you're preparing to act. You're no longer waiting for conditions to be perfect. You've decided that obedience is the condition. You've realized that movement precedes miracles, that steps open seas, that one act of surrender speaks louder than 1,000 intentions. The devil's goal has never been just to discourage you. It's been to delay you long enough for the window to close. But he's failed, because you're still here, still hearing, still preparing to obey. And that alone proves that heaven has already begun to move. Obedience is what finishes what faith starts. And you are being summoned into a new level of obedience that terrifies every demonic structure built against you. You're not just walking into freedom, you're dragging others with you. That's why the battle has been so fierce. That's why the voices of doubt have been so loud, but they're about to go silent. Because obedience silences everything. When you obey, heaven responds, and hell retreats. The vision is waiting on your movement. Chosen one. The vision you've carried hasn't died, it's waiting, lying dormant. Not because it's failed, but because it's assigned to activate only when you step. The revelation you've prayed for, the clarity you've fasted for, the direction you've begged for, it's all attached to motion. Not just spiritual reflection, but obedient, physical, visible action. You've seen glimpses, moments of divine spark, but the full weight of the vision has felt delayed. Not because it isn't true, not because you misheard, but because it's tied to your movement. Some things God doesn't show you fully until your feet touch the ground He's called you to. Your clarity will come as you walk, not before. This is the part that trips many up. They wait to see, then move. But in the kingdom of God, you move, and then you see. Just like Abraham, who walked, not knowing where, but knowing who. Just like Peter, who stepped onto water and only then realized it would hold him. The blueprint is not missing, it's revealed with each step. God hides the details in the movement. Your inaction is not neutral. It has weight. What you delay in obedience, you delay in vision. You're not waiting on it, it's waiting on you. That's why you feel tension in your spirit, like something should have happened by now. That's not disappointment. That's destiny pressing against your stillness. Heaven is fully prepared to release what's next, but it won't until you move, because movement proves you're ready for the next layer. And it's not just any movement, it's prophetic movement, spirit-led, fear-defying, clarity-defying movement that says, even if I don't see it, I trust the one who spoke it. As we read in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 8, by faith Abraham, when called to go, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. That's the kind of movement God is asking for now. Movement born of trust. Movement that releases what can't be accessed through thought alone. You've prayed long enough. You've written the vision, dreamed it, guarded it. Now the vision is waiting on you to move toward it. Not in theory, in reality. There's territory your feet must touch, rooms your voice must enter, systems your presence must disrupt. The vision isn't small, because you aren't. And it wasn't meant to be achieved without bold, countercultural action. It was meant to make you move when standing felt safer. You're standing on the edge of realization. But the next step won't be pushed on you. God doesn't force obedience. He waits for it. And the longer you linger, the more agitation you feel, not because the vision is dying, but because it's too big to stay dormant much longer. You were never created to carry dormant vision forever. There are blueprints you haven't even seen yet, because they're locked in the steps you haven't taken. Each obedient act is a key, a sequence, and when walked out in faith, they unfold heaven's timing. The problem isn't in what God hasn't shown, it's in what hasn't yet been activated through your movement. Your assignment isn't delayed because of warfare, it's delayed because of stillness. Not the kind of stillness that waits on God, but the kind that hesitates when He's already spoken. You've received enough word to move. The question is no longer what if, it's when. You won't have full certainty. You won't have complete answers, but you'll have peace. Not the kind that settles your nerves, but the kind that grips your spirit when you move in step with heaven. And that peace will guard your heart when opposition shows up, because it will. But peace is proof that the vision is still alive, still intact, still unfolding. God has already gone ahead. The doors are already prepared, but you'll never know what's behind them until you knock, until you walk, until you say with your action, Lord, I believe you've already made the way. Stop trying to manage vision with logic. Vision is never safe. Vision is disruptive. Vision interrupts comfort and shatters predictability. You will not be able to carry this next dimension with a half-open heart. The vision will require all of you, your focus, your surrender, your daily. Yes, this is why the stirring won't leave you, why the dreams feel too big to ignore, why every time you try to shrink back into normal, your spirit aches. It's not just ambition. It's not emotional restlessness. It's heaven reminding you that the vision hasn't changed, but it has matured. It's waiting on your alignment. So, let your steps be louder than your doubts. Let your movement speak what your prayers have already declared. Because the vision is not waiting on time. It's waiting on trust. Terre. Asson. Not a servant of fear, but a steward of power, as it is written in Revelation chapter 1, verse 6. He has made us kings and priests to God and His Father. That's not just future talk, that's now. Present authority, present weight, present identity. And it's not dependent on titles or recognition. Your royalty was assigned in the secret place. It was sealed in the fire. It's visible in your endurance, your resilience, your unwavering. Yes, this is not arrogance. This is alignment. When you move with royalty, you don't move faster, you move deeper, more strategic, more sensitive, more obedient. Because the crown doesn't free you from obedience, it ties you to it. Kings move under command, not because they're weak, but because their power flows from alignment. The world is watching how you step next, not because you owe it an explanation, but because your movement is going to redefine atmospheres. There are people who don't even realize they're waiting on your next act of obedience. Your crown isn't for decoration, it's for demonstration. The way you speak, the way you pray, the way you show up in rooms others fear entering, that's how royalty is revealed. The time for shrinking is over. The crown doesn't fit smallness. It doesn't rest on the heads of those who live in fear of man. It rests on those who fear God and walk boldly into the unknown because they trust the one who sent them. You're not wandering. You're being sent. Each step now is strategic. every room, every relationship, every decision, it all must align with the weight of the crown. You're not just moving into places, you're shifting them. And that shift isn't because of your personality, it's because of your authority. Don't forget what you carry. Don't cheapen your calling trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for your royalty. Not everyone will recognize the crown, but heaven does. And that's the only witness that matters. You were crowned for such a time as this. Not when you felt ready, but when you were proven ready. Let your next steps reflect the glory on your life. Speak with clarity. Move with fire. Stand with posture. Worship with reverence. And obey with urgency. This is not the time to doubt what's already been sealed. If this word reminded you of who you really are, share it. Someone else is on the edge of forgetting. Your obedience might be their reminder. Your royalty may spark theirs. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, so this voice continues to pour into your spirit, not as noise but as nourishment. And if this ministry blesses you, consider sowing back into it, not under pressure, but under alignment. Give where you're fed. Partner with the place where heaven keeps confirming what your soul has always known. You are royalty, and your crown is not pendant, it's present. Comment below, I choose royalty. Let it be declared in the open what has long been confirmed in the secret. Prophetic alignment is happening now. Chosen one. Everything is shifting, even if you can't see it yet. The earth may feel the same beneath your feet, and the sky may look unchanged above your head. But in the spirit realm, alignment is unfolding. Timelines are converging. Purposes are colliding. What once seemed out of reach is now within the grasp of obedience, and none of it is by accident. You're not witnessing coincidence, you're living prophecy. There is a reason you've been stirred lately. A reason, the same words, themes, scriptures, and confirmations keep finding you. It's not repetition, it's revelation. Heaven is making sure you don't miss the moment. The nudges, the visions, the way your spirit responds without explanation, that's alignment. The instructions are arriving in sequence, and you're being positioned to receive and respond in real time. This is why the silence has lifted, why certain areas of your life feel like they've reawakened. You're being brought into alignment with what was spoken long ago. Prophetic words you forgot about. Promises you shelved because they took too long. Seeds that seemed dormant now being watered by divine timing. What you called delay, God was calling preparation, and now the preparation is matching the prophecy. You are walking into rooms you once only dreamed about. Doors are opening not because you forced them, but because you've aligned yourself in character, posture, and spirit. When your internal reality matches what heaven has declared over your life, alignment begins to accelerate, not just emotionally, but structurally. Things begin to fall into place not because you chased them, but because you walked in sync. As we read in Amos chapter 3, verse 7, surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. And this is what's happening now. God is revealing his planet in mystery, but in movement. You are not being surprised. You are being aligned. And everything that once seemed disconnected is coming together in one divine rhythm. The people, the places, the resources, they're not new. They're right on time. Don't be confused by the lack of external fireworks. Prophetic alignment doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it feels like peace in the middle of unresolved tension. Sometimes it feels like a knowing that doesn't come with explanation. But alignment isn't always about the big shifts. It's about the quiet adjustments that make space for the loud breakthroughs. Every part of your being is being drawn into place. Your mind, your spirit, your habits. That's why old mindsets suddenly feel heavy. Why certain conversations no longer feel right. Why environments that once comforted now irritate. Heaven is not being cruel, it's calibrating you. Fine-tuning every part of your life to fit the shape of what God is about to release. You don't have time to entertain misalignment. Not anymore. What used to be tolerable is now a threat to your timing. Even a 1-degree deviation can cause you to miss a window. That's why the inner tug is getting stronger. Why the tolerance for compromise is fading. You're not becoming impatient. You're becoming aligned. This moment is sacred. The flow of heaven is passing through your life. And if you lean into it, things will begin to accelerate. Conversations will open doors. One act of obedience will activate entire seasons. You'll look back and realize the moment you stopped, resisting, even in small things, was the moment the heavens began to move. This is what prophetic alignment does. It takes years of struggle and collapses them into sudden moments of clarity. It takes wandering and replaces it with precision, and it all happens the moment you stop trying to orchestrate it and simply move with it. You're not late. You're not behind. You are right on time for what heaven has ordered. But you must stay in position. Keep your heart open. Your hands ready. Your spirit sensitive. Don't rush. Don't overthink. Just stay present. Because alignment doesn't require foresight, require faithfulness. This season will be marked not by how loud you speak, but by how deeply you listen. Not by how fast you run, but by how accurately you walk. God is not asking for intensity, He's asking for integrity. He's not demanding speed, He's revealing steps. And as long as you keep saying yes, the sequence will unfold. This is a holy rhythm. You're not chasing it. You're moving with it. Prophetic alignment isn't about effort, it's about surrender. And when your surrender matches heaven's agenda, nothing can stop what's about to be birthed through your obedience. This is the final push. Chosen one. Take a breath, because everything is about to change. You've walked through the wilderness, stood still in the silence, endured the stripping, and obeyed in the fire. And now, heaven is leaning in with one final breath of instruction, the kind that parts seas, the kind that breaks open what's been sealed, the kind that doesn't ask questions, it commands movement. This isn't another delay. This isn't another detour. This is the end of hesitation and the beginning of acceleration. You have reached the place in the spirit where what once seemed distant is now pressing against the edge of manifestation. What was blurry is becoming clear. What was weighty is becoming necessary. This final instruction will not feel like an option. It will come with urgency, clarity, and holy fire. And it will demand everything, not because God is cruel, but because He's thorough. He doesn't ask for everything to take from you. He asks for everything because what He's about to give is far too heavy to rest on partial surrender. This is not about starting something new. It's about finishing what began before you were born. This moment was written into your scroll, and now the final piece is being released. You're not just stepping into another assignment. You're stepping into the fulfillment of every lesson, every silence, every trial, The push you're sensing isn't pressure, it's promise in labor. Destiny is crowning. The instruction is being released, and your response must match its weight. The resistance has been real because the release will be historic. The warfare you've experienced wasn't about where you were, it was about where you're going. Hell has fought you, not because of who you are right now, but because of what your next step will unlock. And now, in this final push, you must refuse to retreat. There is no more room for delay. No more cycles of almost. No more lingering on the edge of purpose. This is the birthing moment, the final contraction. You don't get to skip the pain, but you will witness the glory. You've been stretched for this, prepared in silence, fortified in obscurity. Your spirit has been conditioned not just to hear but to carry. And now, you are being trusted to finish what you started. Not with striving, but with surrender. Not with desperation, but with authority. As we read in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. No, that's the echo of the chosen. That's what this moment is about. Completion. Not perfection, but obedience, carried all the way through. Not a strong start, but a faithful finish. And that's who you are. One who finishes. You'll feel it in your bones. The final push will come with both fire and fatigue. Because what is being released is not light. It is legacy. It is generations moving through you. That's why the journey has felt heavier lately. Because the final instruction doesn't just shift your life, it shifts what comes after you. This last word from heaven will not cater to emotion. It will speak directly to purpose. It will confront your pace, your comfort, your resistance, and it will call you higher. You won't be able to ignore it. You won't be able to downplay it. You'll either respond with obedience or step out of alignment. But neutrality will no longer be an option. You've reached the edge of divine execution, the place where every lesson turns into legacy, where every whisper turns into fire, and where every faithful step becomes the foundation for what comes next. The seal is being broken. The scroll is being opened. And what was hidden is now being spoken over your life with unmistakable clarity. This is it. The final push. Heaven has spoken. Chosen one. If this word struck something deep inside, you don't let it go unanswered. This wasn't just a video. This was an encounter, a confirmation, a divine pause in time where heaven and your spirit met in perfect alignment. You didn't just hear a message. You stood in a moment that marked you. Now that you've received, carry it forward. Don't let this word remain confined to your screen. Share it. Someone else is still wandering, still questioning, still surviving when they've been called to move. Your obedience in sharing might be the spark that ignites another chosen one's awakening. Comment below whatever you're feeling. One sentence, one word. Just respond. Don't scroll in silence. Respond to what your spirit knows is true. Let your comment be your confirmation to heaven. I hear you. Like the message if it pierced your heart. Subscribe if you know you've found a stream that matches your frequency. And if you feel led so, give as you're prompted. Not under pressure, but out of recognition. Help carry this fire further, to places you may never go, but where your seed will still speak. This isn't the end. This is your beginning. Stay connected. Stay ready.